doing? It's good to officially meet you and chat. I'm excited to chat about songwriting today.
Thank you. I'm doing fantastic. Yeah, I'm really, really happy. I love this record so much. I'm so proud of it. So, yeah, I haven't really talked about the songs very much at all, though.
Oh, awesome. Well, I would love to dive in first, like just on your songwriting journey, and then dive in more on the album. But I love to go back to the beginning and just learn more about, yeah, how you started writing songs. Do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
I do. The first full song that I ever wrote was Out of the Shadows, which was on my very first record, and I think that was 1987 when I wrote that. So I was 19. I had just moved to Vancouver, and I just been signed to Network Records, and they had seen me in Halifax playing with another band and wanted me to come out to Vancouver and initially to sing with Mauve, the Vancouver band, and then a year later they came back and they offered me this 5 record contract, which of course, back being as green and naive as I was, I had no idea how unusual this was. Not only to be given a 5 record contract, but then to say, we want you to write your own stuff. And I said to them at the time, are you aware that I haven't really written anything? Like I'd helped write lyrics and melodies for the other band, but they were, the bulk of the songs was written by them. So I kind of put my toes in the water with them, but I'd never sat down to write full songs. And so when I got out to Vancouver, they were suggesting that I go work with a bunch of other network bands. And then when they talked to the other network bands, they're like, we're not writing with this punk kid. We don't know who she is. She hasn't written anything before. We're not doing that. So they just said, well, let's see what you come up with on your own. And there was certainly some fits and starts, and but I was in the back room where they box all the CDs. I guess it was albums back then, and cassette tapes. Set up a little studio on a desk and just started recording ideas. And eventually I had a 12-string guitar that I was really in love with. I was sort of raised as a classical guitar player. So I was just noodling around all the time, trying to come up with melodies. And Out of the Shadows was sort of that first progression. And so the melodies very sort of just lilty along with the chord progression.
I love that.
Six,
So,
I love a 6/8 time.
yeah. So, I mean, having a record deal without, yeah, never written, having written a song, like, were there songwriters you were studying? I mean, I'm sure like you grew
Oh
up
yeah.
listening to music, but yeah, like who were some songwriters you did a deep dive around then or were,
Um, all through my childhood and adolescence, I was kind of obsessed with Simon and Garfunkel and Cat Stevens, Joan Baez, like traditional, a lot of American folk. Um, and then when I was 16, I discovered Kate Bush and Peter Gabriel, which just blew my mind open. And I think Peter Gabriel in particular, but Kate Bush as well. Like I did a deep dive into both of them and like what I think in particular, Peter Gabriel was like, this makes me feel like nothing I've ever felt before. I want to do that. I want to make music that does that for other people. How do I do that? Like, what does he do? So I was picking it all apart. Um, and but at the same time trying to find my own voice in that. And I'm sure if you listen to the first record, there's a lot of Kate Bush in there. Whether it's vocal, emulating it vocally. I wasn't meaning to, but I'm like, wow, I hear a lot of that.
I love that. Well, when do you feel like you arrived as a songwriter? Is there one song that you feel like, all right, like I'm on my way?
I think by fumbling towards ecstasy, by the time I hit the third record, I started feeling a lot more confident about my songwriting abilities. But I still feel it's always been an evolution. Um, I think both melodically, simplicity, lyrically, like trying to trying to drill down to the essence of what I'm trying to say and do it poetically and in a way that's new, that hasn't been repeated. I mean, it's all challenging. There's so much music and so many lyrics and only so many ways to say that. I mean, I speak and sing about the human condition and about our relationships and from a very emotional point of view. So um, it's very fundamental and you know, simple in that way. So how my desire and my desire to kind of do it differently as I could, or be as authentic to myself as I could, I guess was always um the challenge. And there's no it's constantly a crooked line. There's no mathematical equation to getting there. For me, it's always been about feel. What feels good, what feels right? Does it feel strong enough? Am I saying enough of what I'm trying to say without being too on the nose about it? Um, yeah, so I'm still working on it. I don't feel like I've arrived. I feel like I'm just still trying to get there.
I didn't realize it's been 11 years. So was there a
How did
reason? Like,
that happen?
yeah, was there writer's block? Like, what was it? What was
No, there
going
was just
on?
life. I mean, it just it I got really busy. I had two teenage daughters. I was fundraising for my music schools and working a lot with just, dealing with all the development of that and um, just life. It was busy. And I was still working, I was still gigging, not certainly the way I used to. I guess I think I put out a Christmas record somewhere in between all that, just to put something out there that wasn't going to be like, because I didn't feel like I had enough original material. It just took a long time I've never been prolific by any stretch of the imagination. So, and I get really easily distracted by life and by other stuff going on. And, I need to feel like I need to have good solid chunks of time where I'm doing nothing but focusing on writing, or I'm so ADD, it'll just be like, oh, what, something happened over there. What, you want me to go for a hike? Sure, I'll go for a hike. And also, gigging, like every time you get on a plane and leave, like I'm such a creature of habit, and my schedule gets disrupted constantly, whether it's by kids or, you know, the school or other work. Anyway. No excuse, really. It just took as long as it did.
You're talking about Rise, and I was going to ask because honestly, that was one of my favorite songs on the album. It is to me so optimistic too, despite, the
Well,
current times.
it's a hopeful lament, right? It was written before the war in it was actually the lyrics were written before the war in Ukraine, before Roe v. Wade got overturned, and just as things have snowballed and become so incredibly uh divisive and fearful and uncertain about just what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah, it just feels like we have an opportunity as humans to choose one way or the other. And if we choose to continue to be on opposite sides and point fingers and blame and live in that anger and fear, it's like we're never going to get anywhere. It's like it was kind of coming out of COVID, like we need each other. And I was hoping that would bring us together as a world. And it kind of, at the beginning, it did. And then everything got ridiculous and it pulled everybody apart again. And it was so saddening to me that was a real missed opportunity. And I just think that we need to keep trying to build bridges and keep trying to keep lines of communication open and recognize our shared humanity.
Yeah, I agree. And I do feel like your album to me was a bit of an escape too, because it is very nature focused. So there was there's a song about wilderness too. And I think the last track, there's sounds of the ocean. So I was curious, like, how you went about writing. Like, do you get inspired by nature? Like, do you?
Yeah, I mean, I spend a good half of my day every day outside, summer or winter, and I live on the side of a mountain and I'm in the woods every day and usually by myself and with my dogs, and that's where I write. That's a lot of my lyrics come from that and my peace and serenity and focus comes from nature, from being out in that. It's just so incredibly grounding for me. So it plays very heavily into my life and into my writing. Nature is incredible, the wild, rugged, ragged ocean, mountains, like, and everything in between. It's so inspiring. So yes, it's very, very predominant in the music, both lyrically and I think, as you said, musically as well, like the sounds of the ocean, and if this is the end. Um, yeah, it's all over it.
I read, I think in your bio it said, yeah, the last track you had brought in friends and brought in a bartender for tequila, like tequila shot. Yeah, tell me just about that song. And
Well,
yeah,
this is one of the joys of working with Tony Berg and Will McClellan. It's a really fun, joyful experience being in the studio with them, and that song is the idea of the song is probably about 12 or 13 years old. It was just a guitar riff on a Nashville tuning of, like 12 string, the top six 12 string guitars. And it basically, I played him that idea and I had just the bridge written. And he said, "Oh, that's really, really good. We got to do something with this." And he's like, I have this idea. This reminds me because there's kind of this, Gaelic, mystical, witchy thing going on. And he says, it reminds me, there's this movie from the 50s called On the Beach. And it's about because we were talking a lot about the end of the world. Just the topic kind of kept coming up in conversation because everything felt so crazy. And so I started thinking like, what, what could that look like? What's my responsibility in this as an artist, as a human? And we talked about that movie and how they all, I think Australia was the last place on Earth that was waiting, and the bomb was coming, and they all knew it, and life was over, and so they all just went out to the beach and started singing "Waltzing Matilda," and just I get shivers even thinking about that. It's so sad and beautiful. There's this shared painful, sad moment, and I thought, oh, I want to write a song about that. So the lyrics ended up being all about this idea of, wow, we it up, didn't we? And now this is what's happening, and we're just left to wait for the end. And so, in our fashion of taking the piss out of everything and trying to make things fun and light, Tony's like, well, let's get everybody really drunk and have a sing. Because I said, I want gang vocals on this. And he's like, well, let's get a bartender and let's get everybody drunk and let's just have a, you know, sort of a sad sing along at the end. So it's weird because it's joyful and it's kind of triumphant, but also like really sad at the same time, which I love that juxtaposition.
I know. When I first listened to it and didn't know the story, I was like, wait, I hear the ocean, then I hear like a clock ticking. And then when I read your bio, I was like, oh, so this is like the bomb that's about to go off.
Yeah, the only thing that's missing is the detonation at the end. It just kind of ends.
Well, I did want to ask you about One in a Long Line too, because like that song, as a woman, and you just mentioned Roe v. Wade too. So many of the lyrics struck me. Just like, yeah, I have a soft side and a forgiving heart, but don't mistake me for weak. I've traveled roads that you will never roam. I carry treasures you will never own. And then the kicker that got me even more later was I've worked hard to know myself. You don't get to decide what I believe, what I give up, how I grieve. Like the lyrics just, I mean, that whole song struck me. And I know you wrote that with Anne as well. So I wanted to know what it was like in the room that day, and your daughters are on it as well too, which
Yeah,
seems
which
so
is
so fitting.
so perfect. Yeah. Well, yeah, I am really frustrated and upset by what's happening and women's rights being stripped away. And I just felt like I had to say something about it. And it was around my own feelings and my own fear of how far do I step out on this ledge? And, as a woman, as someone who has a platform, I feel like I can't stay silent or complicit in this. I need to say something about it. I need to voice my concern and my belief, whether or not that gets me in trouble or not. Um, and that is sort of the gist of that song. It's like I always I try and stay open and stay loving and stay kind, and understanding of different people's opinions. But I'm like, not when you're trying to derail me, and not when you're trying to shut me down. Like I have to speak my mind, and I have to speak my mind for my daughters too, who are coming up in this world. And we all worked hard to build the systems that we have as women. Our mothers and grandmothers worked even harder before us and lost so much to create the safety that we now have that is now being taken away from us again. Um, so I'm pissed off and scared. and all that's in the song. It's like I want to figure out a way forward, but at the same time, it's like I'm going to fight this. I don't know how I'm going to fight it, but I'm going to fight it. So all that's wrapped up in that song.
Sure. And well, I mean, you have fought for women for forever, for your whole career. I mean, so many songwriters and artists that I'm friends with cite you as inspiration and just, I mean, Lilith Fair, like, founding that festival and just showing the boys that women want to hear women on the radio and we want to see each other. But I know there's a documentary coming out later this year, so I was curious if that has had any effect on you, kind of looking back and just thinking
Yeah.
about, yeah, those moments and yeah, what struck you to even decide to launch a festival?
Well, it was all that happened back in the 90s so organically, and it was a very different climate in some ways. I wanted to play some shows in the summer. I didn't want to have all the responsibility fall on my shoulders. I had had women open up for me in the past, and I loved it. It was a weird gig. You're mostly surrounded by men all the time, and it's kind of isolating and lonely. So I thought, let's do a show where we have a bunch of women. All these festivals are out there and they're all completely male dominated, yet all these great women are out there making music and having a lot of success. And really, it was when the promoter said I couldn't do it. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? And then it reminded me of, oh yeah, all the radio guys tell me that you can't play two women back to back on radio. People turn the channel. I'm like, well, people won't come if I have women on the bill. I've already been doing that and people are coming. It just seemed asinine to me. And it certainly put a fire under my butt to, really push that idea forward. And all the artists that I talked to were so like instantly on board. Let's go do this. And, the success of it was undeniable. And I had no idea it would be as successful as it was, or such a cultural phenomenon. And also have so much pushback, every day. It's like, why do you hate men? Like, and I'm like, what does celebrating women have to do about hating men? My God, that says so much more about you. But as a very good Canadian girl, I was told not to speak my mind. Your opinions don't matter. Keep your mouth shut. Don't offend anybody. Like that's so ingrained in me. So I really struggled in those press conferences every day when I was just this constant pushback and really stupid chauvinistic questions. Um, it certainly grew me up though. And solidified this understanding of the inequities, certainly, and how society and men actually thought. Because I'd grown up in this little bubble with Network Records, this independent label who gave me creative freedom at 19 years old, and there was never any sexism. It was we were all equal in this. And so I had this real naive concept of how the world worked until I got out there and started doing Lilith and really recognized then where we truly were at, which certainly put fire under me to continue to push forward and change those attitudes, which I think we did. And I mean, I've just watched the one of the final cuts of the documentary, and it's so good. And it really showcases all that, but it also showcases the community and the joy and the safe space and the power of people coming together and not being competitive, but all realizing that every voice can be at the table and that strength in numbers is just, I don't know, it's really powerful and beautiful. And I think they did a fantastic job. I can't wait for the world to see it.
When do we know when it'll be out? Like later this year or?
I'm hoping in September that they're talking about it all coming out around the same time as the record, which would be amazing. I don't
Oh,
know quite how that all lined up, but it doesn't did. But
yeah. Well, I'd love to ask songwriters, especially like, is there a song that you've written that has changed in meaning today since when you first wrote it, whether it's on this new album or your past songs?
I think perhaps the meaning has become because I write for such an emotional point of view sometimes, especially if I write about relationships, what I've noticed over the years, especially romantic relationships, I see these patterns happening in myself because I'll go back and listen to the songs and hear it in a different way because I'll be applying the latest relationship or the latest breakup to it. And I'm like, oh my God, I just did the same thing again. So it's kind of like, when you write in your journal, and if you go back and read your journal and you see you're complaining about the same problem over and over and over again, okay, clearly this is something I still need to work on. So I think about it in terms like that. I can't think of anything that where the meaning has actually changed. It's just sort of come into a different focus.
Yeah. I love the stories behind the songs, and I did want to ask you about Angel because I know, I mean, that song, the power, the impact of it, like being on the ASPCA commercial for nearly 20 years. And then I also read that Daniel from Run DM or Daryl, sorry, from Run DMC, like said that that hearing that song saved his life. So yeah, I wanted to know about just the evolution of, yeah, writing it and then hearing all those stories.
Yeah, I mean, that song, perhaps more than any other of mine, has really had um, an amazing impact in the sense that it's gone into so many different people's lives and helped them in different ways. I mean, Daryl's story is super powerful, um, and I guess speaks to the power of music, really. Like when you hear something that resonates in something that you can't articulate or you're feeling so deeply, and it makes you feel less alone. And I think that's what Angel did for him. I think it's what it does for a lot of people. And I mean, one of the most recent intense stories was I met Wendy Melvoin about 3 years ago, doing the gig at the Gorge with Brandy Carlisle and Joni Mitchell. And she came up to me and she said, that song really helped me. And my mom, that was my brother, because I wrote that song about Jonathan Melvoin. He was the keyboard player in the Smashing Pumpkins who had OD'd on heroin in a hotel room. And that's what the song is about. That's the gist for me. That was the kernel of the idea of, and I had just come off the road of 2 years. I was exhausted. I felt like my soul had been sucked out of me. I was just so emotionally and physically drained. And I had this flood of empathy when I read that piece about, I've never done heroin in my life. I never will, but just being really lonely and empty and desperately wanting something to give you release. And he chose he chose to do drugs to escape, and that obviously was with terrible consequences. Um, but a lot of people, I try not to be too on the nose when I write stuff. So I really just wanted it to be about whatever it is that helps you find release. What are the things that you go to? Is it God? Is it healthy things? Is it negative things? Like it could be anything. And that's why I think so many people took that song and it just put their own stories into it and took from it what they needed to help them. And I think that's one of the best validations an artist can have, is knowing something that you've created has gone out there and helped people. I mean, for me, that's kind of the reason for doing everything.
Is there one song on your new project that has like helped you release, something or maybe best describes where you are in your life right now?
One in a Long Line is really powerful. I got to do two shows in Los Angeles about a month ago where I played the whole record live with a bunch of the studio musicians that I had worked on the record with. And I felt a real deep connection to those words, like a visceral body feeling of singing that song, because I am like, I'm feeling it and we're all living it right now in real time. Um, Also, Gravity does the same thing for me. It's about my daughter and my sort of tenuous relationship growing up. And that is still, it's raw and visceral as well. And I feel it so deeply when I'm singing it, but more the pain of it, but also the joy of where we're at now, because we've been through this heavy, hard time and have come through it and worked really hard to get to where we're at now, which is so much healthier and better. So there's this whole arc that happens for me when I sing those songs, that such a deeper connection.
Sure. And I know, I mean, Gravity being so personal about your daughter, are you ever afraid just to reveal so much? Like, did you have to get her approval or share
Oh
it with
yeah,
her?
yeah.
Okay.
I talked to her about it. I played her the song early on. I said, listen, I mean, this is what it's about. It's obvious to you and me. Are you okay with me talking about this stuff? And she was like, absolutely. Feel free to tell the story. Which I thought was really brave of her and open. And yeah, so I've since checked back in with her too. It's like, you sure you're okay with this? And she's okay with it. So,
Awesome.
but yes, I do on occasion struggle with how on the nose am I am I comfortable with things like, because when it's my feelings, I can be, I'm an open book and I will talk about pretty much anything, and I'm okay with that. But when you're bringing someone else into it, you know, what I was, thoughtful about that. With the exception of something like Wilderness, which also is a visceral thing, where because it's very much, it's sort of my most storytelling kind of song, um, which is just sort of a chronological story of where things just went so wrong and where I stayed in this relationship way too long for all sorts of reasons that are still sort of, when I think about it, elude me. In hindsight, I'm like, what are you doing? You're such an idiot. But at the time when you're in it, it's hard to think straight. And that song for me, singing that just feels so good to have, gone through all that pain and come out the other side. And now I'm in this place where it's like, I am so strong and so grounded. And what was I thinking? But I'm great right now, so it's good. But
After
I played that for my daughter, and she's like, "Oh, be careful dating a songwriter," because I'm
does
like,
this
that he's gonna know it's about him, and it's not very flattering, but it's all very true.
But I listened to this podcast with Anne Lamont the other day, and she's like, so much because she writes so much about her life, and she's like, if they treated you wrong, I mean,
Fair
they
game.
should know, yeah, they know you're a writer, so
Yep.
all your experiences inform your song. So that's, and if he's a songwriter too, like they're,
No, he's not a songwriter.
oh, okay.
No, but yeah, absolutely fair game.
Well, have you thought about just like your legacy as an artist and songwriter, like working on this album? I know it was a minute since the last one. Like, have you thought about your next album?
I have. I don't know what it's going to be about yet, or I don't have any new songs. I have a couple new ideas, but they take a long time to percolate. And I'm so busy now with my focus on my daughter graduated last week, and it's end of year at my music schools. We're doing a big fundraising event in September. The album's coming out in September. The documentary, and I'm doing long lead press and all this stuff. So, I'm pretty distracted, but I think making this record with Tony and Will really reignited the flame of how much I love being in the studio and how much I love building a song with great musicians. And that exploration is so exciting and fun. So yeah, I actually can't wait to do it again. So I'm fairly certain it won't be 11 years until the next one.
That's good to hear. All your fans will be very happy. And what do you love most about songwriting?
I think the release that it provides, not only in the discovery of something that feels and sounds like it's ready and done and solid, and then in getting to sing it to an audience and feel the connection and feel the energy that that song creates. For me, it's about being part of something bigger than myself. Not so much in the writing part, but knowing that I'm going to get to sing this out in the world, and there's going to be a connection. And like, for me, it's like Angel is sort of that, the North Star, right? If I can do something like that helps people, that lifts people up, that connects them to themselves and to each other, then I feel like I've achieved something as powerful and strong as an artist. And for me, that's the most important part of success. is in the writing. Did I say enough of what I wanted to say? Did I say it in a way that feels unique and beautiful and poetic, and truthful? It's a real crooked line to getting there. There's no mathematical equation to it. It's all about feel. Um, and I love the exploration of that, the freedom of that in songwriting, and then the freedom of that in the studio of like, I have no idea. I never go in with an outcome. I'm never attached to the outcome. It's like, I don't know what this is going to be about. I don't know where it's going to go. It just starts to reveal itself. I mean, obviously, a song like "One in a Long Line" was very much, it came out of that idea. And Anne wrote that chorus of I worked hard to know myself. You don't get to decide. It's like, oh my God, that's so powerful. And the whole rest of the song did come from that. So there was a kernel of an idea. And same with Rise. It was Luke wrote, who do we lean on if we, what are the words? Who do we turn to if we turn on each other? I'm like, oh God, that's so powerful, so good. And the whole rest of the song came out of that. Like, what does that mean? How do we mine that? So lyrically, there's usually a kernel, but musically, it's just this could go any direction. Feels like a country song. So let's take it in a completely opposite direction. Often it ends up coming back to, like Reminds Me was I wrote after going down the Yellowstone rabbit hole during COVID and just fell in love with cowboy country songs and cowboy music. And I thought, I'm going to write a love song, cowboy love song. And it was also an anniversary. I wrote it for my partner, as an anniversary song. So yeah, I guess there's kernels of ideas, but as far as musically, it's always, I love being in the studio because you never know. You never know. Someone comes in and just takes it a completely different direction that I never anticipated. And that exploration is super exciting.
I love that. Well, I know we have like 3 minutes left, but I did want to ask you like one last thing just about your advice for women songwriters or just women in the industry, like on navigating the industry and songwriting.
Oh, I mean, it's such a personal journey. I mean, um, I would say be kind to yourselves. If I could give my younger self that advice, it's a tricky one too, though, because part of my success was in my self-loathing and in my feeling like a fraud, and that imposter syndrome really pushed me and propelled me forward to prove myself that I wasn't, and to try and be excellent in what I was doing. Um, but yeah, so it's a double-edged sword. Be kind to yourself, but also be hard on yourself. And surround yourself with good people who can help you build your vision. Um, and be strong in that vision and be strong in your own belief system and don't let anybody push you around. Easier said than done, but
We're all still learning to do that ourselves.
we are, yeah. And it's tricky. It's all, navigating human relationships is endlessly challenging, but you just
But
got to
there's
keep trying and stay kind to yourself, I think and try and stay kind to others and try and be understanding and keep listening, but also stay strong and true to your own belief system.
well, I feel like there's a song in there too.
Oh,
Just
probably.
good life advice. Thank you just so much for the time and congrats on the
Oh, my
album.
pleasure.
I'm glad that it won't be another 11 years because I think I read in the bio you were thinking like this was going to be it for a while.
I thought this was going to be, yeah, I thought if I was going to do another record, this would probably be my last record. But rediscovering how joyful and fun it is to be in the studio and make music in that way, like, oh, I can't wait to go do it again.